That's not just a warning. It's a prophecy. And Friedrich Nietzsche didn't write it to sound poetic or clever. He wrote it because he saw it unfolding everywhere. In every society, in every generation, in every era. Not a dramatic death of the body, but a slow, quiet death of the soul. Because the moment you trade your voice for comfort, the moment you trade your identity for acceptance, the moment you exchange your truth for applause, you begin disappearing. Not in one sudden collapse, not in a single defining tragedy, but little by little, piece by piece. You stop thinking for yourself. You stop moving for yourself. You become whatever they reward instead of what you truly are. And slowly, you fade. You become another reflection, another echo, another name that will never be remembered, because it never stood for anything real. Nietzsche understood something most people still don't grasp. Following the crowd isn't just a social decision, it's a spiritual surrender. It's saying, I'd rather be liked than be real. I'd rather blend in than burn bright. I'd rather be accepted in their world than build my own. And what do you get for it? A comfortable life, maybe, a few polite pats on the back. Sure, but when it's all over, when the noise stops, when the titles fade, when the lights turn off, what's left? Nothing, no legacy, no truth, no self. Because the world doesn't remember those who blend in, it remembers the ones who refuse to. But that's terrifying, isn't it? To not fit in, to be different. To stand alone while the crowd chants in unison. To risk being mocked, judged, rejected, simply for daring to think something original. Most people aren't ready for that. They'll say they are. They'll post quotes about authenticity and standing out. They'll wear the slogans on their shirts. But when the real moment comes, the moment it costs them something, they fold. They choose silence, they choose comfort, they choose the crowd. Nietzsche knew that temptation. He saw it in others, and in himself. He knew how easy it was to get swept into the rhythm of the herd, how tempting it was to lower your voice just to avoid the pushback. But he also saw what it did to people, how it crushed originality, how it turned thinkers into parrots, how it erased the very thing that made them matter. He wrote, the individual has always had to struggle to keep from being overwhelmed by the tribe, and today, that struggle is worse than ever. And he was right, because the tribe is everywhere now. It's in your phone, in your social feeds, in your workplace, in your own home, whispering no, shouting, what's trending, what's acceptable, what's allowed. And every time you compromise to keep the peace, you lose something. Every time you go along just to avoid being called out, you weaken. Every time you silence your gut to follow the script, you vanish. Here's the twist. The crowd never cared about you. It only cares that you're manageable, predictable, safe. The moment you challenge it, the moment you step outside the lines, it turns on you. It mocks you. It cancels you. Because your existence becomes a threat to the very system that taught them to obey. So here's the real question. Are you living? Or are you performing? Are you speaking your mind? Or filtering your thoughts for mass appeal? Are you truly choosing your path? Or walking the trail laid down by people too afraid to make their own? Because if you're not thinking for yourself, someone else is thinking for you. And if you're not choosing your life, someone else's fear is choosing it for you. Nietzsche didn't want fans. He didn't want followers. He wanted free minds. People who could stare into the abyss of rejection and still stand tall. The kind of person who would rather be hated for their truth than loved for their disguise. But those people are rare because becoming one requires a kind of death. The death of your people-pleasing. The death of your need for validation. The death of your carefully curated image. And most people aren't ready to die for who they really are, but you. If you're here, listening, thinking, wrestling with these words, you're already awakening. You can feel the tension between who you are and what the world demands of you. That tension isn't weakness, it's your soul trying to break free. Don't silence it. Don't sedate it. Don't shrink it to fit inside someone else's comfort zone. Because the moment you shrink, they win. The system wins. Fear wins. The forgettable life wins. And you lose the only thing that ever mattered. Yourself. He who follows the crowd will be forgotten. Not because he failed, but because he never truly existed in the first place. The crowd wants you safe, not sovereign. Understand that, because the moment you start thinking independently, they won't celebrate you, they'll attack you. Not because you're wrong, but because you're free. And free people are dangerous in a world built on obedience. Nietzsche saw this clearly. He watched people betray their own potential just to belong. He watched brilliance dissolve into conformity. He watched originality, mocked, shamed, and silenced. And he asked the question no one else was asking. What would you become if you weren't afraid to be alone? Let that sink in. What would you become if you didn't need applause? If you didn't fear rejection? If you didn't water down your truth for people who will never understand it anyway? You'd become something rare. Unrepeatable, unmistakable, immortal. But that's not what the world wants. The world doesn't want you unforgettable. It wants you replaceable, easy to label, easy to read, easy to control. So, it trains you to chase sameness, to follow trends, to speak in slogans, to fear the silence that comes with real independence, because silence is dangerous. It's where the real you lives. The part of you that doesn't care about going viral, the part of you that asks dangerous questions, the part that whispers, what if everything they told me to want isn't what I need? That's where your path begins, the moment you stop running from your own voice. Nietzsche called this becoming the Bermensch, the overman, not in an arrogant sense, but in the sense of becoming someone who creates their own values. Someone who doesn't wait for permission, someone who doesn't obey out of fear. Someone who can carve meaning from chaos and build something original from it. But becoming that person means walking through the fire of isolation, the fire of self-doubt, the fire of losing everything you built on the foundation of being liked. And that's where most people stop. They hit resistance, and they shrink. They feel misunderstood, and they apologize. They feel judged, and they retreat. But not you. You didn't come this far to disappear into the noise. You came to burn the script and write your own. That doesn't mean rebellion for rebellion's sake. It means responsibility, the responsibility of owning your choices, your mind, your soul. Even when it's unpopular. Especially when it's unpopular. Because the crowd will never build a monument to the obedient. They won't remember the quiet follower. They won't quote the one who only repeated what everyone else was already saying. They remember the outliers. The ones who walked away. The ones who stood still while the rest ran in circles. The ones who chose their soul over their image. But here's what they don't tell you. Being that person is lonely. You'll lose people. You'll be called difficult, arrogant, selfish, not because you are, but because you didn't break. Because you had the courage to say, I won't play your game. I'll build my own. And when you do, everything changes. You stop reacting to trends. You stop needing validation. You stop wasting time trying to be understood by those committed to misunderstanding you. You become selective. Still, dangerous in the best way. Because nothing can shake a person who knows who they are. Nothing can buy a person who's not for sale. Nothing can own a person who has claimed themselves flaws, doubts, wounds, and all. That's what Nietzsche was calling for. Not perfection. Not divinity. Wholeness. A human being unfractured by 1,000 masks. Someone who knows that walking alone is far better than walking the wrong road with everyone else. So, look around. What are you following that doesn't serve you? Whose voice are you still obeying in the back of your mind? What dreams have you silenced because they made someone else uncomfortable? And when will you finally say enough? Enough fear. Enough obedience. Enough pretending that blending in is success, because time is moving. And the longer you wait, the more of yourself you lose, until one day you're not even sure what you think anymore. You only know what they think, what they want, what they reward. That's not a life. That's a costume. A mask worn so long you forgot there was a face underneath. But now, you remember. And that remembering, that return to yourself is where immortality begins. Because those who follow the crowd are remembered for a moment. But those who walk alone, they are remembered forever. You weren't born to be one of many. You weren't created to dissolve into a sea of sameness. You weren't made to parrot the ideas of others, or to die a quiet death in a life you didn't even choose. If you feel like you don't belong, good. You're not supposed to. If your voice feels too sharp, too real, too much, good. It's meant to cut through the fog. If you feel like you're walking alone, good. You're finally on your own path. One day, when the crowd forgets the latest trend, the latest opinion, the latest safe, popular voice, they'll remember you. Because you didn't follow, you forged. You became someone who couldn't be owned, molded, or muted. You became someone whose silence said more than most people's shouting. You became someone who, in a world of masks, showed up barefaced and brave. And that doesn't get forgotten.